Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here on your lunch hour to join us for our presentation. I'm going to share my screen at this time. Today's workshop is called Tips and Best Practices on Preparing for an In-Person Career Fair. And so as you all may have known, or if you don't, we will be doing a in-person career event tomorrow over at West Oahu. We're going to be highlighting a bunch of different employers in addition to those specific to IT and cybersecurity. And so that's going to happen tomorrow out on the University of Hawaii West Oahu campus from 10 to 1. So we hope you guys can join us for that. I'm going to pass I'm going to pass it on to my colleague who is presenting with me today to just go over the agenda, and then we'll get started with today's workshop. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Cori. Aloha, everyone. Yeah. So today, short and sweet, to the point. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll talk about some of the information you guys want to have up to date for both in-person and virtual career fair, job fairs. Understanding the concepts and things to look for when researching the employers or the company. Something very important, which would be networking, kind of getting your name out there, going out and fishing, making yourself look good. Preparing for a career event. And again, both of these, just remember, can be applied to both in-person and virtual opportunities that you folks might embark on in future weeks, months, or years. And then we'll go over some tips and best practices.
Perfect. Thank you, Ha'a. Okay. So this is our quick introduction. So again, my name is Cori Connor. Welcome everybody to today's presentation. I am the job prep specialist at Leeward Community College. I work with students individually on getting them, ready with their career. So working out with them on things like resume writing, cover letters, interviewing skills, and basically anything to just help students get ready, right, for their career or their job. I can support you with that. And so we will have our information at the end of the slide deck for you in case you wanted to reach out to us to get assistance. Ha'a? Awesome.
Thank you, Cori. Aloha, everyone. My name is Ha'a, and I am the Career and Transfer Counselor at Windward Community College. So I'm primary and academic counselor, but I have an emphasis specifically for students in transfer pathways. We build transfer programs, understanding what that process looks like from the 2-year to the 4-year. And I am also the career counselor. We'll do assessments, resumes, all the great things that Cori had mentioned to prepare you folks from start to finish in an application process while you're pursuing different types of job opportunities. The information that we're going to go over today is definitely applicable to various parts of both, even your academic side, but more primarily in the career component section. You will have questions throughout the presentation, so you don't forget them, because all questions are important. Go ahead and put them in the chat so we can at least bookmark it and then answer them either throughout the presentation or at the end. Sometimes we hold our questions to the end, which is great and awesome, but we forget it by the end of the presentation. So I encourage you folks, if questions do come up on a certain topic or page, to please put those questions in the chat box so that we can ensure we answer them accordingly.
Good stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And so as Ha'a mentioned, right, all this information that we're giving you today, can still be applicable to a virtual career fair as well, right? So all of these tips and best practices that we're going to be sharing with you, just know that, it's something that you can take with you in terms of preparing for any type of career event. So the first thing that we have here is do your homework, right? And so utilize your campus's career centers, right? We are the folks that can help you, right, with that prep work, all the behind the scenes work that you need to take care of before you get to that job fair, right? So you should be, at least, right, going through the company's website, reviewing the job descriptions and kind of seeing which ones you might be interested in applying for. And that job description is a great way, right, for you to figure out, right, okay, what are some of the skills and the qualification and educational experiences that, the employer is looking for. And then how can you be the ideal candidate for that position? And just know that the more that you can align yourself, with the details in the job ad, the better you will be, right? In terms of being able to get called back for that interview, right? And that's our goal, is we want you to get called for the interview. And so the more you can tailor and customize your resume and your cover letter to that specific role, the better chances you'll have, right, at getting that call back for the interview. And so, yeah, to me, I think that's, one of the best tips that I can give you today is to just make sure, right, that every resume you do is going to look a little bit different, right, depending on the job description, obviously. And so one resume doesn't necessarily fit all the different jobs, right? You're going to want to really take each one and customize that. Okay, the next thing we have here is number 2, update your profile. So this includes any of your social media accounts as well. You want to ensure that you have a professional portfolio picture, which is just basically a headshot, kind of like how you see Ha'a and ourselves today on camera. You want to ensure that also, just keep in mind, right, that any kind of post, any kind of upload or comment, it can be visible by others as well. So we want to be mindful of those particular things, right? If your profile isn't set to private, you're going to want to consider doing so, right? And then if you have a LinkedIn profile, this is also a great way. It's kind of like your online resume, right? But this is a great way to showcase and highlight your credentials, especially in a career fair type of setting, right? You can just give a profile name or whatever, and the company is able to look ahead and look up that information, right? Which is basically your online portfolio or resume. And then number 3 is to be prepared. So if you have a professional portfolio, right, that is readily accessible and updated, you can bring that to the career fair. Beforehand, you want to make sure that your documents are updated, right? Make sure they're updated. And then also, if you have a way to, upload that, virtually or online, that would be great as well, right? So you want to have a virtual copy and maybe a hard copy of that. If you're attending an in-person event, make sure you have enough copies, right, of your resume and your cover letter so that you can hand those out to the employers, in addition to online as well. It's good to have, right, just in case the employer might ask you for an electronic copy. So if you can have that on hand as well, that would be a great tip. Okay, so those are some of the 3 tips on how to update your information. We're going to be moving along here to our next slide, where Ha'a is going to talk a little bit more about how you can research the employer.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cori. Great information. And a lot of that will tie into what we talk about here when we look at researching the employer. It's very important. I think in retrospect, looking at both in-person and online job fairs, you kind of want to hone in on a few strong organizations or a few organizations that you can definitely see yourself working at. The reason being is the information that you tailor your cover letter and all that great stuff to, right? You want it to be very strong and tailored to, like Cori had mentioned, tailored to the job that you are most interested in. So researching the employer also goes to researching everyone that is going to be participating in the job fair or the career fair, right? There might be a list of 25, 30, 40 employers, even maybe. You want to do your job in honing in on 5 strong ones that you can see, you can see yourself there, and then start to research them individually. Because like Cori had mentioned, one resume will not cover those 5 employers. You want to be able to tailor specifically 5 different resumes that allow you to stand out more than other candidates for a particular job, right? So it's always nice to have a general template of your resume to then be able to take things, move things around to then resemble what you want it to look like for different jobs, right? So researching the employer, understanding what their missions, their values are, Because I can tell you one thing, if it doesn't fit in with the mission and values that you have, then that's a way for you to start to kind of find the best, right? And then, okay, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. It's a lot easier to say no to something when you know it doesn't align with the things that you hold closer to value of yourself. Okay. Also looking at what the future projects or things that the company wants to do, what they stand for, what it is that they do, and how your major, your resume aligns with what that organization is about, right? Furthermore, okay, understanding the employer, you want to be able to, excuse me, you want to be able to conduct your researching by visiting the different websites, okay? Deciding on which ones you want to spend more time at, right? It goes back to honing in on those 5 or 6, or whatever number looks good to you, depending on who you want to visit, right? Because you don't want to spread your time across when you can be really focused on a few that best interest you, so that you can find out all the information that you can about that company. So then when time comes, right, and you're preparing for it, you've done your homework on getting a little bit more information that a website might not typically provide for you. Okay, so with this, the in-person is a lot better because you're going to get firsthand knowledge, information right then and there, as opposed to having to decipher some of the things that you would have online on the website. Okay. Also, when signing up to attend the expos, right? Do your research, maximize your potential in being able to have informed conversations with employers, right? And that comes from understanding that company from point A to point Z, right? And another thing too is understanding and deciding if the company's mission, going back to that, right, vision and goals align with your interests. Because if it doesn't, that's how you'll tally and start to hone in on those that you truly are passionate about or truly see yourself there in the long term.
Awesome. Great tips, Ha. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We're going to move on to talking a little bit more now about, and this kind of ties nicely into our next phase about networking, and then also your elevator pitch, which you're probably wondering, what is that, right? So I'm going to explain a little bit more about what that is. And so basically, when you're designing your elevator pitch, right, you're going to want to think about a few talking points. And so at this point, right, the employer that you meet with, they want to know more about you, right? They're interested to see how you're going to be a good fit with that company or organization. And so you're going to want to think about an elevator pitch, right? Which is a statement about yourself. It's very short. It's an overview, and kind of like a background about your studies, your career goals, what you hope to achieve or accomplish. And this is something that you guys can totally practice, right, with your friends or a family member, when you're ready, right? So that when you are attending these kind of events, you're comfortable kind of giving your elevator pitch and doing an introduction with the recruiter. And so, at a career event, right, that's basically, you're usually given, right, direct access at that point, right, where you have firsthand contact with the companies or the hiring team, right, and you get to actually meet them, right, whether it be in person or virtual. And whether it's a recruiting person or a human resources rep, or it's a hiring manager, or maybe it's someone else, right, that, got sent to participate in this event. But that person is usually, right, the first point of contact, right, that will remember who you are. They'll remember, right, something about you that stood out, right? And so they're going to want to make sure they follow up with that, right? And so again, you're making that first impression, and that really counts. And so here's some tips on how you can start creating your elevator pitch. So the first tip I have for you is you are going to want to determine the most important or relevant things that you want your audience to know about you in terms of your skills, in terms of what you value or care about, or what you currently want, right? And how you plan to utilize those skills to, help others, right, within that organization. Number 2, you're going to want to identify one experience or one project or a milestone that highlights the most important relevant things that you want your audience to know about you. And number 3, you're going to want to structure your elevator pitch, right, as more of a story, right? Where there's a progression of events that are occurring. Number 4, you're going to want to conclude with an open-ended question or statement to engage your audience in further conversation. And number 5, you're going to want to practice, like I said, with a friend or a family member or someone that you know. Practice your elevator pitch and be sure to save it, right? Save this so you can just copy and paste it, right? And kind of modify it, right? Depending on, knowing what employers you want to reach out to that day of, you can kind of customize it to meet the needs of that specific job. Okay. And then same goes for like if you're doing a virtual event, you can copy and paste it and put in the chat box. Yeah. So at this time, I know that was a lot of information in 5 steps, right? And so I just want to give you kind of a example, right, on how you can create your own personalized elevator pitch. Okay. So this is going to be my practice run through. So hi, my name is Cori Connor. I'm currently majoring in accounting at Leeward Community College. One of my favorite experiences this semester was meeting a forensic accountant during a mock interview assignment. From that mock interview, he offered to take me on a site visit where I got to learn about some financial theft, bankruptcy, and security fraud investigations that they were doing. Can you tell me more about the projects your financial analysis will contribute to? Okay, so that's kind of a general elevator pitch, not too long, but just again, couple of sentences that kind of really have a sequential order, right? A series of experiences that I've encountered in terms of how I feel I would be a good and qualified candidate for this job. And then I just talk a little bit about some of those experiences. And then showing that, I'm eager to learn more, right? About, what the company is about and then how I can contribute, right, to those specific goals that the company has. Okay, and then next we're gonna talk a little bit more about how you can then prepare for the next step. So Ha is gonna cover a little bit about that. I'm gonna pass it over to Ha at this time.
Awesome. Thank you, Cori. And Cori, while I'm speaking, I know there was someone in the chat that asked if you could put the 5 steps. Can we share that in the chat?
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Awesome. All right. So preparation. Okay, and this starts from the looking at the employer, right? Researching the company. And folks, I didn't make it clear earlier, but when you're researching the company, right? All of this stuff, the way I feel about it, happens before you're even starting your resume or kicking your resume and cover letter off, right? Because when you do that, you're identifying whether or not this is something you want to move forward with in the first place. Okay, because it wouldn't make sense, right? In an instance where you're doing all this research while doing a resume and all that, and then decide later on, it's like, oh wait, when you get deeper into your research, like this is not something I see myself doing for the long run, right? So building that list of employers you want to visit or booths you want to visit tomorrow or at your next in-person or online virtual fair. Research those employers before you start preparing those professional documents. Okay. Moving forward with the preparation. Okay, so number 1, we want to have questions prepared in advance. So most times, or at least in my experiences, both on hiring committees and on the other end, most times we have the opportunity, or those being interviewed have the opportunity to ask questions. Okay, and it's my rule of thumb, and I know some of my colleagues feel the same way, to have questions prepared and ask questions when if given the opportunity. I say if because not every interview will you be given the chance to ask a question. Okay, but when you are given that chance or that ability to do so, we highly encourage every single time for folks to ask questions to the employer. And why you might ask is this allows you an opportune time to kind of delve in and get more information that may not have been either on the website or throughout any of the other research that you've done prior. And even if it's just one question, right? I always kind of give this as a default. It's like even asking the employers, what does a day-to-day a day-to-day operation look like for someone in this position? Something as simple as that, right? Because one, what you'll get from that question is, one, you've asked it, and two is they'll be able to kind of hopefully give you a rundown of what it would look like within a daily operation of someone in that position, the different responsibilities, the things that you'll do, the people that you'll work with. Those are all important things when identifying a place of work, right? Yeah, we see everything on the website and so on, but do I like what's happening on the day-to-day operations? Do I, even sometimes coming down to is, do I enjoy working with my colleagues, right? Do I enjoy this position? Am I happy waking up and come to work? Those are important things to factor in when doing that type of research, okay? But always have a question, right? Always give yourself the opportunity time to ask questions and have them prepared, okay? Dress professionally, okay? That's a give me, but it's important to understand that first impressions mean a lot, right? And that's first impressions when you're walking into the front help desk. That's the first impression when you're walking into the interview. It's first impression when you're exiting that interview. All those types of things that you might not be conscious about, employers are watching, right? They're watching how you treat other people when you enter the workplace. They're watching how you carry yourself, right? How prepared are you? What type of work did you do in advance? What are you going to do in conclusion of the interview process? And dress for the part, okay? And then practice. We're going to drive this point in over and over and over again because practice makes better performance. Most times we hear practice makes perfect, right? Practice makes better performance because there's always room for growth, okay? So in my eyes, moving forward, practice does not mean perfect. Practice means better performance, okay? And by doing that, okay, when we talk about practice, we're talking about mock interviews. That is your best friend when preparing for that final stage, okay? I'll share a quick story. Is that one of the positions that I have applied throughout the UH system, I had done mock interviews with someone I've known for years, right? And the first time we've done a mock interview, although I've known them for some time, I completely shattered that interview. And I don't mean it in a good way, right? My hands all clammy, sweaty, my legs jumping back and forth, twitching, playing with things. It's because when you're put in an uncomfortable situation that you're not used to all the time, right? Your body reacts differently. Like that was literally my best friend that had practiced with me within the mock interview. And there's nothing against them. The questions were great. It's just my preparation for that first one wasn't where it needed to be. But when we say practice, 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 I had done 4 more after that. And by the time I did that 5th one, I felt very confident in my ability to win over an interview committee, okay? Whether you're doing it with your best friend or someone, a random person, or with the counselor in your career center at your respective campus. Don't just do it one time, right? Do it over and over and over again until you feel that you have created an opportunity to be better in the interview, okay? Because it is an uncomfortable situation. But as you're preparing for this, I will leave you with this, is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. These never get easier, right? You just get better at them. You'll always have those little butterflies, those different anxious feelings leading up to the event. But when you practice and hone in on your skills, you become a better interviewer, a better interviewee, right? So that preparation and that practice, and do it with someone you trust. Do it with someone that is going to give you constructive criticism and not be like, oh, that was great, right? Or, oh, no, that's perfect. Good luck. You want someone that's going to look at different things, look at it with a different perspective, and provide great insight so that you can better prepare for the next time you do a mock interview or with your final interview at the end, okay? And this is also another opportunity for you to elaborate on the things that you've included within your cover letter and resumes, okay? This is for you. You've got your ticket. I see resumes and cover letters as your ticket to the interview. Now's your time to shine and tell the employer how you are a good fit for the company, the organization, and how you see yourself as being a contributor to the overall efficiency and mission values moving forward with that organization. Okay. All right, Cori.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ha'a. Okay. And so we're moving into almost the latter part of our presentation here, where we just wanted to touch upon, Ha and I together are going to touch upon some of the tips and best practices on how you can prepare for tomorrow's in-person career fair. So the first thing that we have here is to arrive on time, right? I mean, we can't stress the importance of showing up on time, being prepared, right, with all the things that we discussed earlier. Because it's important, right? It shows the recruiter that you're dependable, and that you're also respectful of their time as well, right? Punctuality creates that memorable first impression, right? And that's what we want, right? We want to have that memorable first impression where the employer is going to consider reaching out to us after this career fair, right, to follow up so that they can learn more about you, right, and how you can be a good asset to that company or organization. So yeah, that to me, that is one of the tips on, you know, making sure, right, that you create that good first impression. Eye contact, again, is another important one. Maintaining good eye contact, right? Practice being an active listener. Consider smiling and nodding with your head occasionally, right? And then limiting all of the distractions around you. And this also includes your cell phone, right? If you are doing a virtual interview, I wanted to also highlight and touch upon, right, making sure that your background is a professional background, right, with minimal distractions, right? You can always blur out your background as well if you need to. But again, making sure, right, that you don't have any distractions. If it is in person, make sure you put your phone on vibrate, right? You don't want to be answering your cell phone, right, and trying to talk to the recruiter at the same time. Let's see. Ha, did you have anything else?
Yeah. Going back to the distractions, Cori, I'm glad you brought that up because that's very important. And that goes for the in-person as well, right? There's going to be so many different moving parts at an in-person job fair that you have to be able to, for your own sake, understand you got a few minutes with this recruiter, right? People are going to drop by, grab swag or grab different things that the company is offering, but you have 3 to 5 minutes, if at best, with the undivided attention of the recruiter themselves, right? Because sometimes the booth is very slow, sometimes the booth is a big attraction, and there's people all around. You want to go in and complete and be efficient. Go in there with your questions, be prepared, undivided attention to each other, and get the answers that you are looking for, right? Because by the time you walked up to this vendor or this company organization, you already have some information through the research that you've done prior to the job fair, right? So when you're walking up to that vendor, you have your questions, you're ready to give them your attention, no distractions, and really maximize the time that you have with the employer. Because the questions that you have, what you folks talk about there, will probably give you insight on whether or not you submit an application for this job. If you really like what you saw during your research, you could even walk around with a few copies of your resume, right? Because you could leave a resume and they can get back if they really like what they see and from that conversation, and so forth. They could go ahead and give you a call later, right? Or say, hey, this might be a great candidate. Let's give them an application. Okay. And that's also can be seen as a part of the process for the follow-up, right? If you're interested, say, hey, Mr. John Doe, I did some research on the company. I have a few questions, A, B, and C. By the way, I really like what you folks are doing with your organization, and I like the outlook that you folks have moving forward. Here's a resume. I'm very interested in participating or at least engaging in the process, the hiring process for this company, right? So an example of how something could go when you're leaving that booth, right? Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you, or I look forward to hearing from you. You want to leave them was like, hey, I saw 100 students today, but one stood out, right? One came prepared. One did their homework on our organization. One gave me their resume. One followed up, right? Because that's what you're doing. They're there to hire. You're there to show them, hey, You're going to meet other people, but here's why I'm going to stand out today. Right? Or I've done this so that no matter who you think about today, it's going to be me. Right? Because it was an informed discussion. And then you saw some things in me, as well as me seeing some things in the organization. It's a fun process, guys. There is absolutely nothing to lose in this situation. Only things to gain, right? Gaining experience in approaching someone you've never met before. Because that's exactly what an interview is about, right? You're going to a vendor, probably never seen them before. Yeah, you're going to have discussions. Some of us might have a harder time creating those discussions. This is your opportune time to where it's not a speech at class, right? You don't get graded. You're not getting docked points. You're going out there, putting yourself out there, putting yourself on the line for potential opportunities that have caught your attention to then reach out of that comfort zone, to reach out and talk to somebody different, to reach out and be, okay, hey, I'm made for this. My resume looks good. I'm a perfect fit. Okay. Nothing to lose. Only fun in this process. At least if you're crazy enough to believe it like I do, right? It's, again, nothing on the line, right? So go out there, have fun. Go out there, put yourselves in uncomfortable situations in a good way, of course, right? But at the end of the day, just know that, hey, what you do from here on out in this process only better prepares you for the next time. If there is a next time, you might kill it the first time, right? And then find something you truly enjoy doing. If not, hey, I'm better prepared for the next time I meet with somebody. Okay?
Yep, totally. Thank you, Ha. That was great. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think Ha gave a lot of good information. So let's see. I guess another thing that we could consider, right, in terms of practicing is to ask questions, right? A lot of students, like, when I do a mock interview and I ask, do you have any at the end, right? I'll say, okay, do you have any questions for me? And a lot of students will say, no, I don't have any questions, right? And then later they're like, was I supposed to have questions? So I would suggest that yes, you do have a list of questions that you prepare, right, in advance for each of the booths that you want to visit. And then having these kind of questions readily available will help you, right? In case, say during the employer's introductions, maybe they don't answer, right? One of the questions that, you had jotted down, right? That's the question you're going to want to ask, right? To make sure they're, addressed. And then I also tell students too that, this is a good opportunity for you, right? Because sometimes a job description could be very vague and not include a lot of information or detail. So if you have questions about what your role is going to be with that company, that is your time to ask them, right? To get clarification on that job duty so that you have a good understanding of what you're going to be doing, right? Because if you get hired for that job, you want to make sure that you're going to be doing exactly, right, what you signed up to do. And so this is also a great way for you to ask, questions, right? And you don't want to ask questions that you can easily find on the company's website, right? So if you're interested in knowing more about like what kind of benefits they offer or whatnot, a lot of that information, right? The company's mission, their vision statement, you can find all of that on their company website under the About Us section. So this is going to be more in depth of like asking questions about, things that maybe you're unsure of, and you want more information, right? But it doesn't come off in a way where it sounds like you're just asking how much days of, say vacation or sick leave do I get? You know what I'm saying? But again, really asking questions that shows, how you could be, how you want to learn more about the company, and then how you can be, a contributing member to that organization. So have a pen and paper with you, right? You can jot down new questions, or if you think of others that come up during the conversation, or you can jot down the employer's answers, right? But have a pen and paper on hand with you as well, is also a good tip. Anything else you wanted to add to that one, Ha?
No, that was great, Cori. Thank you for sharing.
Okay. Okay, and then I think we have the last tip here, which is the follow-up, right? And this is where you need to follow up with the employer. So after you get to meet them, after, even if you've had an interview, It's great to send a follow-up email or handwritten thank you note, right? Thanking the employer for their time or the HR manager for their time. So if you don't have that information, again, you're going to jot that down, right? Make sure you get the person that you spoke with, get their contact information, either their email or their work business address. And yeah, I would consider, just either handwriting a letter or writing an email to thank them for their time and that you look forward to hearing from them in the near future. Okay. So that was for follow-up. I think that was all the tips and best practices that we have for you today. We invite you to join us tomorrow, Thursday, October 5th at the University of Hawaii West Oahu campus. We'll be there from 10 to 1. Again, this is going to be a general career fair. In addition to we're going to have a special TED set up for just the IT and cybersecurity employers. And so we look forward to, seeing you all there. This is a great opportunity for students to network with different employers, learn about different job opportunities. There are a lot of them out there right now. There's a ton of employers that are looking to hire. So this is a good opportunity to connect with those employers, ask questions. And yeah, these are a listing of events that we'll be doing for the Tech Days of Fall. So if you're primarily interested in IT kind of positions, these opportunities throughout the month of September and October are available to any of you. Okay, I'm sharing my screen, but I will definitely drop those tips that was requested earlier into the chat feed. But before we end our presentation, we wanted to open the floor up to see if there are any questions.
And also, did you want to share out the feedback form as well?
Yes, I will get that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of information in a short time, but we are open for questions. If you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself, go ahead and put them in the chat and we can answer them that way as well. And while we're waiting for questions, just know that we'll stay a minute or so afterwards to see if those of you who want to stay back and ask then, when you're more comfortable, can do that too. But we do encourage you to have ask questions if you have them.
I got a question.
Yes, go ahead, Carly.
So this is pretty much like my first time going to a career fair. I've been in the workforce for quite some time, actually. I mean, it sounds so cookie cutter, to be honest, but at the same time, like I guess what I say is you got to be confident, right? But at the same time, it's like, I mean, if it's your first time, you're gonna choke, right?
I think it'll be different. I can say that, Carly, to put it simpler. It'll be different from what you do tomorrow if you attend to what you may do in a few weeks, right? But I think the confidence piece when I talk about it comes more in the confidence in your work ability, right? Because although like even in Hawaii culture, you don't really talk about yourself a lot, right? But when we have the confidence in our ability to do good work, I think that helps us kind of shine a little better, or helps us to kind of express that a little more, especially if we might have been in the workforce for some time. We know the abilities that we have and possess, and here's how. And then I think that comfortability comes with, this is how I can help you folks, right? Because we know that they're there to hire people. They're not just there to hand out information. We know that they're either hiring or providing internships. So we know that they need people. Be confident in our ability to be like, hey, I did this research. This is what I found. This is how I feel how my work experience can contribute to what you folks are doing. But I can tell you, yes, Carly, it's not that you'll choke or anyone will choke. I think it's more of it'll be better as we progress over time. But I think it's
Right.
getting out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, it is definitely getting out of the comfort zone for sure. But like when it's your first time and you really don't know what to expect, you're selling yourself over and over again, right? But I guess my question is like, you guys say to prepare, I guess what I would say to look for the job openings. I mean, you go to their website and you see if they have positions or something like that. Because I mean, I've been to a few of them and I don't see any positions like available to apply. You know what I mean? So I guess that would be my number one question with those companies. Like, where can we apply?
Yeah,
What is a good website too? Because yeah, you do go to their website, but they may push out, I guess, jobs on different websites.
right. I think that what you can do in this instance, Carly, is we have a list of employers who are participating. I think this goes back to our research. If we go and visit their sites, right? Let's say we found our 5, we go and do more homework there and look at their career opportunities. If things stick out, great. If they don't have anything posted on their online website, those are the questions you bring to that booth, right?
Okay.
It's like, hey, AT&T, just for an example, right? I saw that you folks, I kind of read your missions and values. I think it's great. I saw that there are no career postings right now on your website. Can you explain a little more of the different openings you folks currently have? So,
Right.
something like that, right? So that although we couldn't find something online, I have a person in person that can give me an answer. Whether it be like,
Right.
it could be like, hey, yeah, go to this site as one, or it'd be like, oh, we're recruiting for future positions because we know there's going to be some vacancies, right? But at least the idea is that we get an answer from what we can't find online, if that
Yeah, I
makes
guess
sense.
it does. I guess it's just crunch time because, like, don't get me wrong, this is very helpful. It is, but now we're like a day of, right? And so those who have kids and this and that really don't have time to crunch time and build resumes and this and that in a matter of one night. You see what I'm saying? Like I could prepare. I'm always organized and prepared is what I'm saying. But like in one night, that's a little like, I probably not.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, Carly. I do want to make a note. I know the state of Hawaii, if we can't make tomorrow, the state of Hawaii has one, I think on the 18th of October, at the Blaisdell. So
Okay.
that might be a lot larger. So, I mean, that might be a longer list for us to kind of like narrow down, but it gives us some time for preparation. And then I in this instance, it might expose us to a lot more things outside of what is being offered at UH West Oahu, which are great opportunities as they are. But yeah, you make perfect sense, and I agree. I just want to just throw that out for everyone here on the call, that there are other opportunities if we can't make tomorrow, moving forward, for state positions, state departments.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to show up unprepared when I don't have my documentation and all of this. When it would have been nice to know all this, I guess, a week before. Like this is great information.
To make you feel a little bit better, Carly, and it's for everyone, right? At least tomorrow is not make or break. That's how we want to think about it, right? Like tomorrow is not going to be like, yes, you get the job, or no, you get the job. So to kind of ease some of that tension is like, hey, this is an opportunity to find some answers to our questions, with the hopes that we get enough to where, hey, I will apply, and then I will prepare based off of the things we learned today, right? That preparation, we might not be able to do all of that overnight, but getting enough answers and honing in on your list of employers, we will be able to do that over time while we prepare for that job. If that kind of.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It does, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's just like crunch time, I can't get
Valid
5, but I can
feelings.
probably get 2.
Yeah, definitely valid feelings, Carly, and thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate your openness.
No, this is great, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And then, Carly, I just wanted to add to that, at tomorrow's career fair, we're not saying that all the employers are going to be expecting you to come with your resume, like, fully decked out for a job, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have to do that, right? Like, you can just go there and maybe get more information, right? And then you can always just apply. Everything is done virtually too, right? So you can just apply on the company's website, once you have that ready. But I think, in terms of a career fair, it is good to have your stuff, ready, definitely. But it's also, for someone like yourself, right? Which we're open to feedback too. So there's our evals going around, and, maybe we can consider doing this, a week before versus the day before. And so, yeah, we apologize with that, on our behalf in terms of scheduling. But just know that tomorrow, I think it's still a great opportunity for you, Carly, to just go out there and to ask questions, meet the employers. And like I said, just collect more information, right? And I think that way, then you can take all that back with you, right? And then utilize that information to update your documents too. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is great. This is great information.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I do see a question here in the chat. How can you be more outstanding to employers if you really don't have much experience, just a college student? That's a great question. So I would suggest that you highlight all the great things that you're doing now, right? Any of the classes that you've taken, if you've done any kind of internships, volunteer work, talk about what you learn in your classes, the different skills that you're learning. If you're using different types of equipment, I would talk about that and highlight, right, what you're learning in your classes, because that's probably going to be the most relatable, right, to the job. So highlight that. You can share, hey, I'm looking to graduate, right, spring 2024 or whatever it is. These are my career goals, right? And so just getting an idea of where you can get started, right? What do you need to have? What are some of the cards that are laid out for you now, so that you can kind of see, right, what you can work on, what you can prepare, who you can reach out to for help. I think now is the time for you to, take advantage of those resources. And then also, getting that information. But yeah, if I was to add to that question, I would say highlight the classes and the things that you're doing now, and give yourself credit for all those great things that you're currently working on. I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to add to that.
No, I think that was great. And too, Roberto, too, looking at the fair tomorrow, right? There will be internship opportunities, right? In this instance, might work in your best interest. Of course, they can go in conjunction, right? But looking and moving forward at different opportunities in regards to the career or industry you might be interested in, is start now in building that credential of participating in internships, other types of workforce opportunities, or even volunteer work, right? Because as we're getting that degree, right, and if we can get experience at the same time, that's how later on in our journey do we make ourselves look better. I always give the example, when two college graduates graduate at the same time, one has just a degree and one has a degree with volunteer internships, all that fun stuff, who do you think an employer might look at a little bit more, right? We might not reap the benefits today. It's more delayed gratification than anything. But just know, moving forward, if you can find things like internships or volunteer opportunities in an industry area that you might be interested in the long term, don't be afraid to jump on it now, because you will reap the benefits later. Okay, if that makes sense and helps a little. But yeah, and it's hard, right? Because we always see these job openings about, hey, a degree with so many years of experience. But it's hard to get that experience when the employers don't give it because you don't have the experience, right? So here's an opportunity to kind of start to build our resume for the long run. And it's great that we have these internship potentials coming out from this job fair tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. Good luck to you tomorrow with that.
Yeah.
And then I think Dior, excuse me if I butchered the pronunciation, had a question about, are there other common forms of practicing confidence aside from mock interviews and research? I'll speak for myself and say that I am not aware of any common forms of practice. In this particular instance, I think this is more hands-on application to build the confidence. The reason being is doing something on paper and doing something live are two completely opposite things, right? Because we're comfortable doing things online over the internet, right, in the comfort of our own home. It's when we have to do something live with someone else that we might not really know that tests that anxiety, that tests that comfortability, that tests the application of affecting confidence, right? I would encourage you, if you have that opportunity, to work with your career center, a peer, an instructor, someone you feel comfortable with that will give you enough information and feedback to try it that way. But it might not be a bad thing for us as career counselors to look into, in regards to helping to boost confidence of individuals or students outside of that live interface, if that makes sense. And then I'll give it to Cori to see if she has anything as well.
Yeah, I think yeah. So I'm kind of with you on that one. You know, that's I definitely would like to explore other avenues on, you know, or research, right? Other things aside from just a mock interview. I mean, right now that's in my role, that's kind of what I do, right? To prepare students. It's just a mock interview and then giving them, you know, solid, you know, feedback and suggestions, right? That can, you know, help them improve, right, on their interviewing skills. Um, anything aside that, I mean, it's not, I haven't done anything. I mean, yeah. Um, and I, like Ha said too, I think the confidence comes with like, as you kind of gain more experience in that, right? So the more you do it, the more you get this valuable feedback, right? That's, to me, is just the best way, right? You're gonna be able to, you know, if you can take all that information, you know, and apply that, I think, you know, over time you'll see better results in your interviewing skills. So yeah.
Thanks for the question. All right, we
Yeah.
have a few more minutes for any other questions you folks might have.
It looks like someone typed in the question answer section if it applies to high school students as well.
The job fair tomorrow. I'll leave that. Corey, I think that's just for university students. Yeah, so this one
Yeah.
is not. Go ahead, Corey.
Okay. Yeah, so tomorrow's event is going to be tailored directly to the college students, right? We do hope that in the future, we were planning that out. I mean, that was in discussion. So hopefully the next go around, you know, we'll see if we can, you know, have like schools bust in and whatnot. But right now, it is just open to the University of Hawaii students. Yeah. Thank you for asking. But that doesn't mean you can take the information you get, right? And you can pass it along to whoever that is. You know, if you collect brochures or whatever, right? You can definitely give that information to the high school students. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? If not, I know we did put some surveys. Roberto has one. Is the meeting recording going to be posted, Tasha?
Yes, so we'll get it posted by tomorrow and it'll be on our Writing Center website. Roberto, if you're interested, we can send you an email to let you know once we get it posted.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tasha. All right, we got a couple more minutes. Any other questions, last minute questions? If not, we'll stay on a few minutes afterwards to talk story. Tasha and Cori did put some links to some surveys inside the chat. So before your departure, if you could, please go ahead and fill that out. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and it does help us to make the next presentation that much better. We appreciate you, all of you, spending your lunch hour with us, taking in information, and we hope that it does help you, if not tomorrow, then with future job fairs, career fairs.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.